you wanna go? Come on.
Welcome back, Cindy Dole here, Home Wizards, where we love to help you improve your home and improve your life. And if you're thinking about improving it by just having that outdoor space feel like you're on a vacation, well, you're at the right place, because we're going to talk with one of my favorite designers who's going to help us in terms of making that outdoor living just kind of look cool. Susan Sawasy is here with Sawasy Designs. Thanks.
Hello.
Hello, Susan. Sorry the traffic was bad for you today.
It was bad.
It's bad. But you're not
I'm
stressed.
here.
You're calm. Yeah, and we're
cool.
gonna have some fun. Do you love outdoor living at your place?
I do, actually. We do a lot of it. In fact, my husband, who's an architect, when I go away on a trip and I come back, there's an amazing little deck that's just been built that projects out. He calls it his birthday deck. Then there's decks for barbecuing, and then there's other areas. He's building another deck off our dining room.
That's kind of handy to have a husband who's
Let
an
me tell
architect.
you, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And a builder.
Wow, so your
It's
honeydew
really
list
good.
is looking really good.
Yeah. Well, he makes his own honeydew list, which is really great.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But
Can we talk about it on the radio?
Well, I can. You know the rules better than I do.
Got it. Well, so you love outdoor living, and it
Yes.
sounds like when you talk about coming back from a trip, I mean, isn't that the inspiration? Isn't that where it all starts?
Absolutely.
Wherever you go, or if you aren't lucky enough to go there, in your mind to go there by going to the travel websites.
Absolutely. And bringing back that little detail that you would never think of for yourself, and having the opportunity to build it into your house. I think it's the best way. It's the biggest bang for the buck, so to speak, when you're building this outdoor space, because you're not dealing with all of the structure, but you're getting the benefits as if you were adding that square footage onto your home, and you're not.
Like 60% return on the value is what I'm hearing.
There has to be
huge.
Yeah, it's just like your kitchen. That's the biggest return on your value.
And it
is your
doesn't.
kitchen.
And it doesn't have to be an outdoor kitchen, but
No.
it could be an outdoor kitchen. But it could be anything.
It could just be a space that supports your social life. It could simply be a place where you go to get away from the family that's in the house, away from the TV. Depending on the bugs and the temperature and the time of year, totally dictates how simple it can be.
And how cost effective. I mean,
how cost effective.
It doesn't have to be super expensive.
No, it doesn't have to be, because if you're doing a roof and a foundation, then you're into the basics. If you're not even doing plumbing, you could even do an outdoor kitchen and really not even have it be plumbed. Get yourself a little gas out there and one electrical outlet. So it can be pretty minimal. You can go the gamut, but you can also take the Weber that you've owned for 20 years. And that's your cooking mechanism, because you know how to use it. It does the job perfectly. So it's not like you have to go out and buy yourself a $5,000 grill even. You can use the equipment that you've got. It's a matter of bringing the furniture, the creativity, getting the sound out there, bringing the party outside. Some people are bringing their TVs outside, which for me is kind of counterproductive, but I do love it when I've got some Brazilian music in the background, and you're sitting there with your margarita or whatever, and you're just enjoying the fresh air. And if somebody can light a match and make a fire and make me a hamburger at the same time, this girl
You're in
thinks
heaven.
I've died and gone to glory.
Well, we were just talking with one of the guys who's a master at grilling. He's written this thing called the Barbecue Bible, and we're talking about how it really doesn't matter what kind of grill you have.
Okay, let me tell you about an experience, because I was listening to that while I was flipping out about being
Okay.
late and coming here. He talked about his caveman steak. We do a gourmet cooking thing with like 8 other couples where we, go from house to house, and we usually
that's
do
fun.
it outside because nobody's got room in their kitchen or even really in their dining room. So it almost always goes outside. One of the things that this guy did, he called it a cowboy steak, and he takes wood chips, gets that fire going, those coals are glowing, and then he took a thick steak, salt and pepper, just like your guy said, threw it right on the coals. I couldn't believe it. Shook it off. It was the best piece of meat I've ever had in my life.
And it was fast.
It was so fast. 4 minutes on each side, and it was done. And it wasn't gritty. It was delicious. Really the best meat I've ever had.
You'd almost think that it would have all these extra flavors, like ew.
It did, but it did. I mean, it
good
was
flavors,
good
but not
flavors.
like,
No, you didn't get a bad feeling off of it at all. Plus, it's not real charcoal; it's the wood.
So you're really a cave woman, is what
I'm
you're saying.
telling you, it's all coming out
Funny.
now.
Well, all right. So if we do have that outdoor cooking experience, what else can we add to? If our budget is kind of on the limited side, which for a lot of us it is, with our existing grill, how else can we kind of make an outdoor cooking experience?
Well, one thing that you can do, you can have a sink that is just there to hold ice. I think that, what kind of is a drag about your outdoor grilling experience can be the going back in the house, coming back out, going back in the house, in and out, in and out. So in the remodel that my husband and I just did, he jokes around that I put in a drive-through window, but our grill is right out there, and instead of going out the door and down the back of the house, I just pass everything back and forth through. So I think the more convenient you can make it, if you can manage to have refrigeration so that all of your condiments and everything are there.
Well, they have an outdoor dishwasher. The Kalamazoo outdoor dishwasher.
I just heard that that's the one thing they don't have yet outdoors.
Oh, they've got it.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
No. Well, you know what? That's the thing about outdoor that is a little bit of like shooting yourself in the foot. It's like outdoor fabric. It's pretty expensive stuff. And I think anytime that something has to stand up to the elements, it costs more money.
But maybe it's worth it because
it's going to last.
It's going to stand the test of time.
Exactly.
Like the Sunbrella fabrics that
if 5 years
velvet
goes by and it's not rotting from the sun, it's the same. It is the same idea.
Okay, well, we'll get to all the cute little decorative things because I know you have cool ideas. But just wrapping up the outdoor cooking thing, the sink. So how do we have an outdoor sink to store our ice and put our beverages in, right? Our bottles of wine or whatever.
Well, what we tend to do is we do these trough sinks. They're bipolar, and they're long slits of sinks. They're like,
I've seen those.
They go 24 inches, 48 inches, 36 inches. They're fantastic.
For a bar.
Yeah. And you just fill those guys up with ice, and you've just got your beers sticking out of them. And then they have a drain built into them. So at the end of the day, they drain out. But it is a sink. It's meant to have fresh water brought in also, but you don't have to have the water element there.
So you can just go and get that.
Yeah, and then you just fill your vessel.
How would you
with your
install
ice.
it? Where would you put it?
Well, that's
if you don't have a whole wraparound for your.
Well, you could have a counter that's as easy as a piece of wood. Your counter doesn't have to be granite. You can use things. You can take something like that sink I was just talking about and recess it in a wood tabletop. It has a flange on it. So it can just be sitting there as it almost looks like a sunken planter when you're not
I've
using
seen it. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I think you could even probably fill it with succulents so that when you weren't using it,
Cute
it
idea.
would just look as if you had a floral arrangement on your table all the time. And then when you're pouring the water through your succulents, it's just draining through your sink.
Oh, I keep succulents in my kitchen sink inside.
Well, there you go.
Then they never do dishes.
There you go. Honey, I'd really like to cook you dinner, but it's about the succulents.
It's all about them. Well, anyway, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Susan here about the outdoor living experience. I love that idea about the sink. And maybe there's some more things you have up your sleeve for us, huh? About decor and fabrics and lighting and music
and the music and the lighting.
Yeah, it's all about.
It's good. It's all about the lighting.
Yeah,
and no bugs.
All right, maybe you have a question too. No bed bugs. Please.
I can't believe I followed bed bugs.
I know. Sorry, but I know you're much prettier than a bed bug. The number, if you have a question, by the way, about outdoor living, give us a call. 888-539-2980. Cindy Dole, Home Wizards, and we're back in just a few. Well, we're here to help you feel right. Darn it. Home Wizard Cindy Dole here, where we love to help you just enjoy the spaces you call home. When you come home, whether it's a small place or a big place, you just feel like, life is pretty good. So thanks for sharing part of your Saturday with me as we enjoy this experience together every Saturday from 2 to 4. With me is a fun gal who's all about making those spaces just more fabulous, and she comes up with some really cool creative ideas. Susan Sawasy, and she's with Sawasy. And we're talking about outdoor design and fun things you can do regardless of your budget. We were just talking about using this kind of trough-like sink that happens to be made by Kohler. Maybe other brands make similar. No, there's not.
I've only seen Kohler.
It's a rectangular thing, but how for about $350, if you had only a picnic table,
right,
an old-fashioned picnic table and a picnic basket, you can basically slit a little opening and plop that baby in there, and now you fill that with ice, and you have a place for all of your beverages, and it becomes an instant outdoor.
It becomes the center of your entertaining.
Yeah.
Especially if you got the beer sticking out of it and the wine chilling. It's the center of your bar. People can come along and just scoop fresh ice. Your bartender can use it. So, and then as the ice is melting, it's just dripping down the drain.
So no plumbing really required.
You don't even really have to have plumbing when you think about it. Maybe you'd want to put a bucket underneath there so that people weren't walking around in the water.
Yeah.
But it looks fantastic. It's refreshing. It's just the kind of the essence of the middle of a party.
Well, if we wanted to go a little higher up in our budget, and that could be a full bar that we would create for our
Right.
outdoor living experience, right? What goes
Right.
into it, you think, and what kind of budget?
Well, once you get that sink there, so now it's great because not only is it a bar for your entertaining, but it's also a prep sink now for your barbecue. It's a place for you to rinse your fingers so that you're not constantly running back into the house.
Peel the shrimp and
peel the shrimp, exactly, and then fill it with ice. There's a million different things that you can do with it. So getting that sink there is probably the first leg up. If there was like one big deal that you could do, putting an outdoor sink in. And you can design it so that this is your potting bench also. Something that my husband and I are working on at home right now. We've just had the sink installed outside. The sink's not there yet, but it's going to be a potting bench, barbecue, backup, catering sink.
Nice.
So I'm going to be able to just take all of my dirt and everything when I'm doing all of my pots and plants. So it's a little bit of a bigger sink than the trough I told you about. And then I'll be able to wipe that whole thing down and spark up my fire and fill it with ice and go straight into a party. So it's this multiple use thing going on that I think makes it really worthwhile. And from a resale point of view, because I'm always thinking about that, I think people are so attracted to outdoor sinks. Anytime that you're going through an open house or, you're working with somebody on their home and they've got an outdoor sink, the possibilities just go over the top. Everybody uses it differently. People with children that are going to be looking at your house are going to love the idea of an outdoor sink.
How about bathing the pet?
There you go. Well,
outdoor sink.
just so you know, if you ever come over to my house and I'm pouring you a beer out of my sink,
Okay.
I don't want you to remember that I did wash my golden retriever in that very sink.
It'll just be your secret.
Yeah, it'll be my secret.
Well, so the outdoor sink sounds like a fun start for your bar or for whatever. What else could go into that outdoor entertainment spot? I guess a refrigerator, a mini refrigerator.
A mini
of some
refrigerator would be fantastic. And as disappointing as it is, those inexpensive $100 refrigerators that you get, they don't do very well outside for
Those
very
office
long.
refrigerators,
They're,
right?
Exactly, the office refrigerator. And people get very upset, well, not very upset, but it's disappointing because they go, oh, well, I've got one and I'm going to use it outside. But the condenser in it does not have the power to fight against the outdoor elements.
Oh.
So you kind of have to, if you're going to do a refrigerator, you really do kind of have to step up to either going with a refrigerator that's designed to be outside.
I was going to say,
the insulation.
there are some special ones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Viking, they all make it. Everybody and they make beverage centers.
And that's not a come on. I mean, they really are made for the
They're
outdoors.
made for outdoors. They have the insulation in them so that when the sun is beating down on them, they don't have to be on 24/7 to keep that level of chilling for your wine. But you can get them with ice makers, which then you don't even have to go inside. I mean, you could just move outside permanently. Give me an ice maker, and this girl doesn't have
You
to
don't
go
have to leave,
back in
period.
the house. And then, it's just a matter of how you feel about storage. Outdoor things do tend to get a little bit buggy.
And dusty.
So, if you're going to have your dishes and such stored outside, you're probably going to end up wiping those off every time you have your event because it is, unless you're out there really using it a lot, then everything's constantly being wiped down and it doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. But if you were to step up and get a dishwasher, like we were talking about, that they now have these outdoor dishwashers, you could almost use the dishwasher as your storage unit. Like the drawers tend to be, so that it's sealed, dirt's not getting into it, and then every time you go down there, you've got your clean dishes, and at the end of your dinner or whatever, you turn the thing on and you walk away and there's your clean dishes. And if some dishes are in there that aren't used, they just get washed again and again. Does that really matter?
No.
It wouldn't to me.
No.
So that would be ideal to have a sink and a dishwasher and a refrigerator. And then with your grill, I mean, the only thing that I could see that you would really add, and then you really start to get up there, is when you start talking about the different kinds of hobs or smoking ovens, pizza ovens. Mm-hmm. They're wonderful. These freestanding ovens that you can roast large pieces of meat in. Rotisserie is wonderful for outside because you're not stinking your house up. Think of all the grease. If you really get into the habit of doing a lot of your summer cooking anyway outside, think of how clean you're keeping your house. You're not having all that secondary grease flying around, which does ultimately attach to your walls. You can cook your fish outside and the house doesn't stink for 3 days. People love lamb. I can't stand being in a house where lamb is being cooked. But if I'm outside and it's being rotisseried, it doesn't bother me at all.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Lamb is awful stuff.
And we were talking earlier about speaking of grilling, that how when you grill in advance of your guests coming over, there's certain things that that you can do in advance, whether it's an appetizer, a skewer, or whatever. Vegetables, of course, because they're good at room temperature.
Right.
But also now that you have this outdoor entertainment cooking space before people arrive, you're taking some of the stress out,
Right.
because now you've gotten things done in advance,
Exactly.
before people are coming.
Exactly. And there's a lot of things that you can prepare in the house that you finish off on the grill too. So it's just really a matter of using other people's very creative ideas, I think. And, I was hearing your guy talking about corn on the cob. We do that all the time. Sweet potatoes. I mean, that's some of the best food on the planet.
Yeah. And it's good for you.
And it's good for you. And I also love the idea when you've got small children about cooking outside and getting them involved and being part of the process, and they can make a mess because it doesn't really matter. The dog's going to be there under the table eating whatever they're dropping on the floor. They get to wash stuff off in the sink. Who cares? The place turns into a wet cooking zone, but you're outside. It's
Right.
I think it's a much more relaxed atmosphere as far as food prep goes in general.
Neat. All right. Well, we talked about the full bar and the sink and the whole grilling experience. What about the seating area? Because that's fun and that's important to feel like it's a bit of the indoors outside.
Right. And I think that that's the inexpensive part, because if we're looking for spaces to live, to add on to our square footage, and with our weather the way we've got it, you can have your seating area. It could be like a game table. It could be a table and chairs that you use for dining or for playing cards or just sitting around and talking. But now with all the furniture that we've got, you can really get some incredibly comfortable furniture that really feels as if you're sitting in your living room. And you get up and you walk away. You don't have to cover it. The stuff is really meant to take a beating.
You can hose it down in some
You can
cases.
hose the stuff down,
Yeah.
which is a good idea because it does get pretty dusty. But then you can do different groups of seating in different parts of your yard. One of the things that my husband and I went to a wedding a couple of years ago, and it was unbelievable. It was outside, and they had crystal chandeliers hanging from the oak trees over every table.
Ooh.
Unbelievable. And now I force that on my clients. I'm like, okay, we're going to put this fabulous dining room table. We do these decomposed granite yards, that it's like walking on concrete.
Yeah.
And they think I'm kidding. I'm like, nope, we're going to hang a light from that oak tree, and we're going to put a gorgeous, and you have nothing but space. Nothing feels more elegant and over the top rich than having more space than you need. Because so many of us live in homes that are wonderful, but, you put 8 people in your dining room and you've got nowhere to go. Nobody can walk around. But, your side tables that you use to help the buffets just make it even worse. You take that same dinner party and put it outside, and you may as well be in a palace.
It sounds like your own little slice of Montana.
Exactly. And you throw a light over a tree branch so that you have that indoor feeling.
Sounds
and
gorgeous. You could
it's
probably get that
fantastic.
from an antique store.
That's
or a yard
right.
sale.
How fun would that be?
But it sounds like you would need electrical on that.
Well, you just need a really, really long extension cord.
Really?
Yeah, like those orange extension cords. They're meant to be indoor, outdoor.
Okay.
I mean, if there was a rainstorm coming, I don't think there's a chandelier I'd leave hanging out in the rain. But if I've just got this event and I just plug it in, throw it over, pull it up, tie it off, and you have lights outside. Plus,
Isn't that fun?
candlelight, you can't beat that. But, when it gets breezy, candles can be... you're watching your candles flutter like they're going to go out any second, and oh, geez. And when you have a chandelier like that, it's
Are you
fun.
talking about an electric chandelier?
An electric chandelier.
And not a candle chandelier.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you're not having to worry about lighting
The fire,
your tree on fire
yeah,
either.
not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Or you could even use. I'm sure they must have a chandelier that uses some of these battery candles.
I'm sure they must.
Right, these LED battery.
Which could be
flickering.
really fun to do. Yeah, no, I'm going to have to look for that because that's a really good idea.
Because you can get the votives that are, those cute little plastic votives, and it even flickers.
Yep.
With a little, LED battery, and you could put that inside the little
That's
chandelier.
Right. And then if you want, you can add candles. If it's a little bit too windy, then you're not depending on your candles, which is really disappointing because once you lose your light, you lose the party.
Yeah.
And then let's not forget music.
Music is key.
It's key. It's huge.
But there's so many ways you can do music now with of course, iPods, right? You don't have to have a complete installed system.
Absolutely not. In fact, we just got
It can be
a
wireless
system.
and everything.
It can be wireless. It looks like about the size of a piece of a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can name names, but
Sure.
it's Bang & Olufsen carries it. I forget what it's called. Mitch would be able to tell you, but my kids gave it to Mitch for for Father's Day, and it's over the top. It goes anywhere you go. You can run it off your computer, off your iPod, off your iPhone. So you can change channels, and that piece comes down into the yard with you. So you've got your iPhone, and then we've got this big speaker, and the sound sounds fantastic. And you can change. You can go from also, what is it called? Zonos? It goes, every radio station on the planet comes through this thing. It's unbelievable. So if you want to listen to sports or you want to listen to your collection of music, it doesn't matter. You can change mid-sentence without having to go back into the house and change a channel.
And how much is this?
Well, I think that the one that my kids got my husband was $500.
But
as
still,
far as a stereo system
Yeah.
goes, and he drags it around the house with him when he's working on part of the house, he's always got this thing there, and he just picks up his phone and changes the channel and has great music wherever he goes.
Well, we have more great ideas. We're talking with Susan Sawasy, who's just, she's full of it in a good way, because she's an interior designer with a lot of creative juices flowing in between those ears of hers. And we're going to talk more about outdoor living and then also some great storage ideas to look beautiful but feel like you have your stuff
Exactly.
in its place. Home wizard Cindy Dole. You can call in at 888-539-2980. And don't forget to go to the website cindydole.com, where you can listen to the past shows in the honors section. We're back right after this.
You took me in and I wanna go home. Let me go home.
Oh, welcome back. Cindy Dole
And
here.
I'm surrounded by a million
You're listening to Home Wizards, your radio home for all things home, garden, and life improvement. As when you go home, you go, you know what? I'm happy to be home, because we're getting some good tips here from designer Susan Sawasy. And outdoor living is a request you get a lot of, don't you?
More and more and more.
for your
and
clients.
we're doing more and more landscaping, and it just goes hand in hand with, you kind of, I stand with people in their kitchen, and we talk about what they want to do for their kitchen and their family room, and then my eye always goes out that kitchen window, and there's this it screams at me, come and make me a space. And I'll ask the people, what about that? What about all that space out there? Do you want to think about accessing that, as far as when we change these glass doors and windows and such, and a light comes on for them, and they say, well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But they don't know where to start. And so I would say that probably 50% of our projects has a little bit of something to do with some outdoor space now.
And if someone doesn't have much of an outdoor space, let's say that they're really landlocked, or they're up against a hill, or if they don't really have much more than front yard, or they just have side areas. I mean, are there still some solutions that you
Oh,
have
absolutely.
for people?
Because if you might not have room for a table and chairs for 12, but you probably always have room for a love seat and a guest chair and some, like, a funky collection of tables, and an opportunity to just go crazy with plants and make it look like a small room, a small intimate space, or like a cafe table and chairs is really all you need if you're a couple and
Like a
you're not
bistro.
doing a bistro. Exactly.
Yeah, with those tall bar stool
and
kind of
which
chairs.
is wonderful.
I love that.
And they're very comfortable,
It's
and they're
compact.
People can stand around those when you're having a little bit more of a party, or if it's just the 2 or 3 or 4 of you, to have a nice little table with kind of bar stools. And then if you do have a window where you can put a countertop in there, then those bar stools can turn around and now face into your kitchen. So it really only takes that one window to really connect how you're able to respond and relate to the people that are just on the other side of that wall, and making it feel like they're part of what's going on inside, and vice versa.
I love the bistro effect. And if we are going to look for some outdoor furniture, I mean, how do you begin? How do you choose whether it's going to be a wrought iron or,
Well, okay, now that's
wooden?
the perfect question, because if we are wanting to make our outdoor come indoor and vice versa,
Yeah.
I think we need to take a look at what we've already got and say, well, like at my house, wrought iron would look ridiculous. It would look like an outdoor part of the house. For me, wanting to make my indoors look like it's moved outdoors, I would do teak, because it's got more of an indoor feeling to it. So that's what I would ask myself. If I were getting ready to make that big decision and buy some furniture, I would say to myself, well, first of all, how am I really going to use the outdoors? I am not a sunbather. I don't need a lounge chair. I like to entertain outside, which is mostly around dining or cocktails. I like my coffee tables to have people be able to sit on them also. So if I go to 30 people suddenly in my small outdoor front area, they can sit on whatever's there.
Or how about those? I love those Asian porcelain.
Beautiful. They can be like small tables.
And you can use those pedestals indoors or outdoors.
Indoors or outdoors.
Instant little place to put your beverage, right?
Exactly. And a little bit of flash of color. I mean, I know they come in white and black, but they also
Red.
come in those fabulous Asian colors, real saturated. And so those are wonderful because they can be benches, they can be tables, they can go indoors, they can go outdoors. I mean, that's exactly the kind of thing that you want because that is flexible. It's not horribly expensive. And beautiful to look at.
It's timeless too. It
timeless.
Almost feels like it can work with any home style.
And it can. And they come in a range. You can get them carved out so they're like Chinese clouds, or they could be solid, monochromatic. So if you don't want them to be too over the top, then get quiet ones. But that's the kind of thing that's going to let you have one good idea after another, and it's going to back up all of your creativity.
One of my favorite things you were speaking earlier about, repurposing or not repurposing, but doubling up your use of a sink for not only your outdoor kitchen and dining experiences, but also having it as a planter.
Right.
You know, I loved one of the Pasadena Showcase tours. The designer had a table that he had a glass carver cut out the center of and had plants inside the center of the table.
Growing up out of the table.
Yeah.
Right.
And
exactly.
So,
wonderful.
So I love things like that where you can maybe repurpose a piece of furniture that you already have inside. Like we have this old glass table that we're using inside the house, but we could take it outside, have the center cut out, you know, and then you have plants inside the middle of it. Well, and
something about that too is, let's say you've got something that you've been living with for a long time and you've tired of it, and it's not something that you really want to throw away yet. It's been maybe your family room cocktail table for 20 years. Why not let it serve its duty its last couple of years as an outdoor piece? So what if it's not going to live forever? You know, it's going to get washed out and beat up looking, but you can cut the middle out and do creative things with it.
Or how about using, kind of like the reverse of that, using an old planter or an urn that's made out of concrete and it's beautifully carved. And then now you put a piece of glass over the top of that. Yeah. And now that becomes a side table.
Yeah. And it's a decorative piece.
And you can cut the hole out in the middle if you want, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it goes on forever what you can do. You know, you can take a pot, a beautiful pot, and just throw a piece of glass over the top of it, gives you an instant coffee table. I mean, and you can fill it with rock.
So in terms of choosing our furniture style, which is where we started on this, look at our inside stuff and maybe even just take some of it outside. Use what you have.
That's right. Because our houses tend to be kind of crowded anyway.
Yeah.
So let's say you're going to have an event and you're going to have a party outside and you've got 4 chairs. Why not drag some of your indoor stuff outside? It's just for one day. People that haven't been to your house all the time aren't going to recognize it. They're going to think you have this incredible patio.
That's true. Yeah. Lighting. All right. So lighting, you mentioned the chandelier.
Right.
That's it's an electric or maybe battery operated chandelier, and we've used an incredible long, like you use it at Christmas time, the long orange or green outdoor safety extension cord, and you've taken
instant
it all
power
the way to your inside without needing an electrician. But what else would you say? Let's say you do want to install some really cool walkway lights.
Well, let me tell you,
lights.
They're doing more and more with solar now, and we will see.
I'm still not a fan.
They're not. The amount of light that comes out of them is not great.
But it's not even a firefly light. It's kind of wimpy.
I don't know. I've got some that's a little bit blue, so I'm not nuts about the color.
Yeah.
The light itself is a little bit blue. But what happens is, for me, is that my walkways, without me thinking about flipping a switch, because you definitely want more than that, but without flipping a switch, you automatically get a little bit of light at the stair and such. So I'm a big proponent of getting those solar lights, and solar lights are getting better. You'll see in this next couple of years that people are demanding it, and so they're becoming more efficient than they ever used to be.
I mean, they're capturing the sun.
Yes, they have little panels on them. They have these little cells, and then
how many hours of sun does it really need to capture a good dose?
Well, it does need a lot of sun.
8 hours.
Right.
So if you live in a shady area,
then that's
us,
not going to work for you. But another kind of light that's one of my favorites, and it goes back to the chandelier light. It's called we call it moonlight, and it's outdoors. It's meant to happen outdoors, and you have a really tall tree, and instead of of doing all these uplights where you're, washing underneath the tree branches, you get one or two, and you can do it with LEDs now, which are so energy efficient, and they go way up in the top of your tree. And when they come on at night, because you can put them on a timer or a switch, whatever works for you, you get moonlight.
Really?
And it just washes, and you get the branches leave their shadow all over, but it's soft. It's not enough that you can read by, but it's enough that you can entertain by. And it's kind of mysterious, and it's soft, and it leaves you a beautiful circle of light.
Ooh, I want that. So
but
where
it
do we
just
get
calls
it?
for, well, you need a big tree. You got a big tree? Because you have to have big trees.
We have a whole hillside of oak trees that are probably 100 years old.
Okay. Perfect. So then you get your little table and chairs down there underneath those oak trees. And it's all scruffy because it doesn't matter. Nothing wants to grow under an oak. And then you just have your landscaper do that, and they're low voltage too, so that you don't have to have an electrician running an exact power line out. And you get all of this fabulous light out of like one or two bulbs. And it's up there all the time. That you don't take down like you would your indoor chandelier. And you don't need an orange power cord either because it's low voltage.
Isn't that a great
idea? Moonscaping, moonlighting, I think that's what they call that. And I think that's really a nice way to softly light. And then you just throw a little bit of candlelight in with that and you're set.
Cool. Storage-wise, what's the one thing that you would suggest? Because I know we're running out of time, but you have so many cool ideas. One thing to really be neat, I mean, the obvious, baskets and, come on, no, been there, done that. But what's a really new and neat thing that's out there?
Well, we're actually starting to do a lot of linen press, creative linen press. Do you know what linen presses were?
No.
They're big armoires that are designed with narrow drawers in them that they pull out, and then you were able to put all of your linen tablecloths and lay them out nicely so that you don't have to hang them up. Well, we've been doing sofa back tables and side tables that are actually linen presses. So the doors open, and they have like 3 or 4 drawers this deep in them that pull out. And that frees up your guest closet or wherever it is that you're trying to store your linens.
Cool. Susan, tell us your website.
Oh, my website is Sawasy.com.
Loved having you. We'll talk to you again soon. And we want to tell everybody that August 26, 27, 28, the Home Beautiful Expo at the Pasadena Convention Center.
That's right.
And
our home tour in October.
You got it.
October
Home Wizards
2nd.
is back next Saturday from 2 to 4. Have a great weekend. And remember this, the key's under the mat. Bye-bye.
I'd say that was a pretty successful broadcast.